How's it going, everyone? My name is JT, the Talking Head. You are the audience, and you are listening to episode... What was that? Hello? Oh my god!
Turn that bluesy shit off, boy! You're making everyone depressed! Oh yeah, that's better. Is this thing on? Hey, this is Lobo the Cutter here, taking over hosting duties for the Masters of Matinee all October long.
Hey, you can't just...
Shut up, before I make you a little less talkative and a lot more just head. Anyways, where was I? Oh, yeah. My name is Lobo the Cutter, and I'm taking over this lame-ass radio show for the rest of the month. Today, we got a far-out guest. He's a groovy documentary filmmaker from Nashville, Tennessee. He made this sweet movie about an actual, real haunted house.
Actually, the documentary is about a haunted house attraction in Killen, Alabama. It's called Arx Mortis.
You mean to tell me you got a filmmaker on to talk about a haunted house and you couldn't at least get the real thing? I thought we was gonna chat with Zach Baggins or something.
Sorry.
Whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are talking with documentarian Stephen Lackey on this week's Masters of Matinee, Theater of Terror. What the fuck kind of name is that?
Please, Zed came up with it, I swear. Take it up with Zed.
Zed? Didn't you hear? I can't take nothing up with Zed. Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. Oh, and remember to silence your cell phones, you dog dicks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, every now and again, I try to get a guest on here from our community on TikTok, and today's guest also happens to be a TikTok community member. He is a documentary filmmaker, director, all-around swell guy, and one of my good buddies, Stephen Lackey. How are you doing, Stephen? Welcome to Masters of Matinee.
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here to hang with you. I mean, we hang all the time on TikTok, so you guys should come over there and hang with us because we get into some serious film conversations sometimes. And it goes till the wee hours of the morning, so be ready for the long haul.
And we get into some serious not film conversations sometimes.
Yes, we do.
So we try to live stream.
Offended easily. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't come if you're easily offended. Stephen live streams usually like 5 days out of the week. I try to jump on 2 or 3 times a week with him and our friend Dustin as well, and sometimes Leo Zavala. And so it's a great time. Come join us. Stephen, I'm going to cue the audience into the disaster that just happened because my audience likes when I'm hurt. We had a really great conversation about Stephen's documentary Family of Fear, which we're going to recover, but the audio was completely toast. So we're here restarting. So I'm going to switch gears though, because I realized at the beginning of the first attempt of this episode, I forgot. I was so excited to get into the meat and potatoes of this. I forgot to ask you the question that I ask every single new person when they come on my show. So it's probably a good thing that I'm getting to ask this because I love this question. Stephen, the last movie that you watched is Now Your Life. On a scale of 1 to 10, how screwed are you?
Oh, I'm really screwed because 1, I'm probably going to die, and 2, it's going to be a miserable experience because it was a terrible movie. The last movie I watched was The Nun 2.
Oh, no. No. I haven't seen that yet, but I heard it's awful.
It's real bad.
So, do you like the Conjuring verse?
Not really. I like The Conjuring. I like the first movie, and I think the second one is okay, but I haven't cared for much of anything else I've seen.
Yeah, the only ones that I liked were the first and second too, but I've only seen the first. I've seen all 3 Conjurings, and I've seen the first Annabelle movie, which I thought the first Annabelle movie was a snooze fest.
Mm-hmm. I've seen the first 3 Conjurings. I've seen the first Annabelle movie, and I've seen both Nun movies, and 2 of those are pretty good.
All right, Steven. So I do want to cover this documentary that you made, and this was not your first foray into documentary filmmaking. Of course, you've had how many did you make before Family of Fear?
A Family Affair is my third feature. I've done one docu series and a ton of other short films and stuff.
Gotcha. Um, and did you have you made anything since Family of Fear?
Some shorts. I had one film that I started, and this happens with documentaries sometimes, and it sort of crashed and burned. But I'm not going to talk about the subject because it looks like it might be gearing back up. And
Ooh,
this happens, you know. The thing about documentary is, for me, the average time that I invest in each documentary is 2 years.
okay.
So, you know, it's not like making a narrative feature where you're shooting 30 days and then you cut for 3 or 4 months and you're done. This is at least a 2 year process every time we do something. And of course, with pandemic, I didn't do anything for a year and a half, so that slowed everything down too. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we've got a couple of things brewing right now. And with a documentary filmmaker, usually, at least my experience with other doc filmmakers, is we all have a couple of things going simultaneously to see which one's going to stick.
Gotcha, gotcha. So with
Yeah.
Family of Fear, did you shoot that like is are you talking about shooting as a 2 year process, or is it like the whole shebang, the shooting, the and then the edit process? Is that 2 years?
Usually, for me, in my experience with the ones that I've done, is it's a year of hardcore shooting, and then it's a year of post, and usually some pickups.
Got you.
You know, we won't shoot hardcore, but there'll be things sometimes we'll want to go back and grab based off how the edit is going.
So back in 2017, you went to a haunted house called Arx Mortis in Killen, Alabama, and you made this documentary called Family of Fear. Um,
Hmm.
I First off, I commended you on the first attempt at this, but I'm going to commend you again. It's a great documentary. Those listening at home, go watch it. You can buy it on DVD on Amazon. You can message Steven on TikTok or Instagram if you follow him, even though he probably TikTok's probably the better way to get a hold of him. And you can watch it on it's a Tubi, right? On Tubi.
Yeah, you can watch it on Tubi. It is up for rent. If you don't use Tubi, you can rent it through Amazon Prime. You can get the DVD on Amazon now. The film is distributed on an educational platform, so if you buy that DVD from Amazon, you're going to pay the educational price, which is kind of high. I don't have any control over that. So if you are interested in having a copy, you can message me on TikTok, and I can probably help you get hooked up on one for
And
cheaper.
it's definitely worth owning because this is a documentary. Let me tell you, I watched it for the first time a couple months ago when I bought a copy, and then I watched it again last night to just kind of refresh my memory of it before I sat down with Steven today. And this the message that this film has, it is timeless. It's so timeless that you can rewatch this film even though you know what's going to happen. It's a constant refreshing message to feel this this group of people who have come together, a group of outcasts who've come together to put on this haunted house every year. Stephen, tell me a little bit about Arx Mortis.
So I'm glad you said that because the whole experience really uplifted me. You know, it was an emotional roller coaster ride, but I was so uplifted by the end of it, and we really wanted that to sort of be the feeling of the movie. Arx Mortis it's a 55,000 square foot haunted house. It's one of the biggest in the southeast. It's might be the biggest independent one. There's other corporate ones that are maybe the same size or bigger, but it might be the biggest independent one. And it's fascinating because they have 200 employees all working for free that are doing it because they love it, and they do a good job. It's terrifying. It and I didn't even mention this to you before, but that this movie has been the longest investment of anyone that I've done because we had the whole 2 years, like I told you, but 2 seasons before that, before we started shooting in Arx Mortis, we spent time in two different haunted houses during their seasons. And for one reason or another, those two haunts didn't work out for us. So we spent basically the Halloween season of 2 years looking for the right haunt to shoot in. and also building a gear package that we could shoot properly the way I wanted to shoot. I wanted to be as invisible as I could be in that haunt. And usually when you look at footage that people shoot, even in really high end docu-series like what they used to do on TLC or Discovery or Travel Channel, whatever, they would go in with big cameras and lights and stuff, and none of the reactions that the haunt actors would get were legit. And I wanted to go in with no lights. And it was
Yeah.
important to me to figure that out because I wanted the reactions to be real. I didn't want them to see us. So all that happened. So this is really a 4-year documentary if you think of it that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I noticed there's a lot of like night vision kind of black and white footage in this, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very interesting way to approach it. Because yeah, you got to think if you're going through a haunted house, it would be kind of hard to be scared when you have a guy with a big camera rig and lights right behind you. So that would
Mm-hmm.
kind of take you out of the moment of being in a haunted house. Um, you say that for a couple years prior you went to a couple haunts. Uh, you don't have to elaborate on the specifics, but could you elaborate on like a couple of the things that can cause a documentary to fall apart when you're already like so deep into it and you have this idea and you're going to go and develop this film and you find your subject and you're going to shoot? What are like a couple things that can really cause it to tip that point?
So it's always the same thing. One of them was nothing interesting. It was boring. Basically, it was a big haunt here in Nashville, and they were really good to us. They gave us unfettered access. We were shooting and whatever, and then they got bought by a corporate entity. And when that happened, I couldn't get a guarantee from the guy who owned it, who now only owned part of it. I couldn't get a guarantee that I would get all my releases signed, my image releases, my location releases. And I don't have time for that. You're either signing or I'm dipping, which is exactly what we did. We dipped out because there's no purpose in me investing a lot of shoot time and then not be able to put the movie out because I don't have an image release. So that was that one. And the other one was we were honestly looking for that underdog story because I think I love to tell that story. And we went to one that was a very low budget, small haunt um, that we thought could be that for us. But they were too ragged around the edges as far as actor safety and stuff like that. And I just didn't want to be around if something bad happened because that's not what I want to do. So we had to dip out of that one too. But I don't regret those 2 seasons because I used both of those seasons to figure out the gear.
Right.
So by the time we discovered Arx Mortis, we were ready to go. And turned out one of the haunt actors at the haunt here in Nashville also worked at Arx Mortis. And he's like, I know the story you want to tell. You've got to come meet the people at this haunt. Because the other 2 haunts that we shot in, people got paid. This one, he said, no one's getting paid except security.
Ooh.
So I was like, you are going to work your butt off for a month and a half with a lot of really terrible hours and do it for free? Well, I want to know why. And that's cool. And it ended up being perfect.
Well, they're working even more than just a month and a half, aren't they? Because they start actor training in July, right?
And that's interesting. I mean, I don't know if they had done it to that degree before we got down there, because
Hmm.
it like I mentioned to you, it is an underground or an underdog story because the haunt is a really good haunt, but they had a really bad turnover one year. They had a bunch of really bad reviews, and the year that we were coming in, and I think one of the reasons they were kind of excited to have us there was to prove they can come back, and they invested a lot more money into actor training, and they brought a specialist in, a teacher, to teach everyone, all the volunteers, how to act and how to scare and all that stuff. So it was really cool because we got to see that level of learning and trying to grow and recover from some really negative reviews the previous year.
Right.
But yeah, I think the big thing is what people don't know is, and what I didn't know was most successful haunts change their haunt by 30% every year. They gut it and build new. So imagine the haunt closes the first week of November. They take Christmas off. Then they start prepping for a short week of opening in February because they open for Valentine's Day, which I think is
Ooh,
hilarious.
that's great.
After Valentine, yeah, they call it My Bloody Valentine, and they do a bunch of different kinds of haunt tours there. They do a candlelight haunt tour and all kinds of things like that. And then they take another couple of weeks off. Then in March, they have their trade show, which we went to with them, called Transworld. And they buy all their gear for the coming year. And then in the summer, they start work. So, I mean, literally, it's nearly a year-round thing to run a successful haunt. And I did not know that till we jumped full on into the documentary.
I would think that they probably weren't doing I mean, this is just speculation from an audience member, but I think they probably weren't doing the actor training and stuff, at least not as seriously before this season, because I remember them saying, I think it was the wife of the owner. I think she was saying that they were putting a very heavy emphasis on the actors that year because a lot of the complaints and stuff were against the animatronics not functioning correctly, and also just in general not providing the level of scare that people were expecting and stuff like that. So I would suspect that maybe that was possibly part of them trying to put a more people first approach to the whole haunt. And I think that's really interesting. And I love that it's an underdog story. Everybody loves an underdog story. You can't beat an underdog story, really, because everybody wants to see the person who is predestined to lose beat the odds, and Arx Mortis's story is one that is so fascinating because it's not just that the haunt itself is like the little engine that could, to take a phrase from one of the other people in the film that literally said that. It's that the people that run that place, that go and put the work in behind the scenes to build it and to act in it and to design it and everything, they are in essence outcasts and have been pretty much shunned by society, and they have found, against the odds, they have found a place where they can find success. And I think it's a beautiful story.
Well, and that's what's so interesting, and the thing that we're so proud about the movie is when you're a documentary filmmaker, you always have if you're doing a narrative film, and I think that's the problem with a lot of documentaries as far as being appealing to people who don't like documentaries, is they don't feel like a narrative film. It's just 2 hours of talking heads. But I approach everything with a beginning, middle, and end, and I compare it to a football game. You have two teams, they're going to come together, there's drama, they battle it out, and somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And that's the way I want my movies to be. So going in, we hoped that they would be successful and have that ending that they wanted at the end of the season, but we didn't know. We didn't know. And that's so much fun for me as a filmmaker, going in and just not knowing. When you talk to like unscripted TV creators and they're actually kind of designing the ending of their shows, to me, that's not documentary. That's not fun. Right. The fun is being real and seeing how it goes. And that part of it ends up just being the wrapper of the movie. That's the narrative flow that keeps you engaged. But the more we talk to people, and like you said, they are the outcasts. They come, like you had mentioned this previously, they come from the LGBTQ community, or they're just metalheads, or they come from a dysfunctional family, and they all come together in this place. And that's why I named the movie Family of Fear, because their whole job and their passion is to scare the crap out of people, but they live in a little bit more of a fear type of life in the real world, because they're in a really small town. So if you're slightly different, you really stand out more than like if you're in a city where you can disappear in the crowd. Right. But when you're making documentary, you really have to be ready to turn a corner. And we turned a corner with some people who revealed some really serious things to us. And that's when I looked at my co-producer and said, this movie just changed, because we have to give this real time and we have to tell this story. And it was incredible. It was incredible.
So you say this movie just changed to your producer. Your original concept was just to go and see the inner workings of a haunted house and find a story within that, correct?
Yeah, I knew what the narrative was going to be, but I didn't know specifically. I knew that I was going to meet a bunch of cool people, and I knew there were 200 people that worked at this place, and nearly all of them wanted to talk to me. I thought, we've got our narrative. Let's meet the people and see what comes of it, because whatever happens, we've got a cool narrative story. Gotcha. So we just kind of let it happen. And the first night of interviews, it was kind of hilarious. because it nearly killed us. Because the dressing room manager, his name is Sonny, he kind of was our bridge to everybody that was part of it. And he said, I got a few people that want to do interviews with you. Are you setting up for interviews this day? And it was a Sunday. And we were traveling down there 3 full days a week all year. We would go down for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe sometimes Monday, and then we would come back here to do post or offload footage or whatever, and then go back. So it was Sunday. We were going to leave. And I'm like, yeah, we'll spend the day doing interviews. Well, he brought 40 people in.
Oh.
And it was like a conveyor belt. By the end of it, like, we had to stop because I wasn't even able to speak anymore, because we had started in the morning and it was midnight and we were still doing it. All my cards were full. My hard drives were full, but it was amazing. It was amazing just how excited that people were to actually be able to share their story outside of Killing Alabama. So
right. That's something that's really beautiful, man. Like, and that's something to think about too. It's like you guys got a lot of people interviewed through that before you had to stop. So I'm wondering how many more people had just as fascinating stories or just as heartbreaking stories or whatever. It almost makes me kind of think that you should go and do a sequel. Just gonna put that out there.
Every Halloween season since the movie came out the first time, and it's been released twice, I get asked about doing a sequel. And I am not interested in doing a sequel, but I would do a limited, like a docu-series, like a 6-episode or something like that. And we have talked about that. And, if we can make that opportunity happen, I would certainly do it.
That'd be
I
very
wouldn't,
interesting.
however, I don't know that I would go back to Arx Mortis, to be honest with you, though. I think it would be interesting to contrast with Arx Mortis some other stories.
Well, maybe if you did it like a docu-series and say you show, would you think you would want to, like, this is just me picking your brain, would you think you'd want to show a different haunt every episode, or would you think you would want to keep the episodes within a like timeline that bounces around between haunts?
I would have to check out the haunt, and it would be one of those things. Like I said, I would have to go spend a season with them,
Right.
and see. I would go down wherever we were deciding to shoot. I would go and spend the month of October with them, see how it rolls, meet some of the people, and see if it's good but not enough to fill 6 episodes. Then yeah, maybe I would do 2. But I'm a digger. I like to dig deep on something. A different haunt every episode, to me, that's more of like a survey,
Right.
and not a documentary. I mean, if some streaming company or cable channel wanted to pay me to do that, I would certainly do it. But if you're asking me what I would want to do as a passion, it would be probably to try to stick with one location, because I understand now there's so many stories to tell.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of really really amazing people to meet that have, and everybody has their own story, and I think that your film uh really captures just a taste of what, and honestly, what's really fun about it is the relatability, because the stories that these people are putting on display for this film is, it's really the stories of many. There's so many people that are going to look at these stories in this film and say, I relate to this. This is me. It mirrors my life in this way, this way, and this way. And that's a beautiful thing. I think that any film or piece of music or book, any kind of media that can put that on display, that relatability on display, and get people to feel and connect with it, I feel that's the most important thing that media can do. So, like, here and now, I'm just going to say, Stephen, thank you for making this film, because I think that it's important to the world, even if it doesn't garner this massive success and everything. I think for the people that it has reached and will continue to reach, I think it will be an important film. So, thank you for that. It's an incredible film.
I appreciate that, and it connected with me because these are my people. I was those people. I felt immediately comfortable around all of them because I knew where they were coming from. I've been there too. I'm in the same spot. I was, an arty little metalhead kid that liked scary stuff and was kind of different than everybody that I grew up around. And so I understood, not only that, but just loving haunted houses. So it's the fact that people connect with it means a lot to me. And it doesn't have to be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. If a few people every year during this season, when people start watching the movie again, will message me and tell me what you just did. And that makes the movie worth making for me.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm looking at this from which I mean, our audience knows by now that you and I both write for OHMR. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're critics. So I'm coming at this from a critic's point of view and I'm coming at this from a personal point of view. And if I separate those two, they both essentially say the same thing. The personal me says, "Oh my gosh, this is so relatable." The critic side of me says, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be so relatable for a lot of people." Is the biggest thing.
Well, and that is the biggest compliment that I can get, because that's what I wanted. Because I didn't want it to be a documentary filmmaker for documentary filmmakers or documentary lovers. I just wanted it to be a movie people could watch and have fun with, and maybe, like you said, connect with. And what was interesting is, like I said, the movie has been distributed twice. The first distribution deal was okay. I wasn't in love with what they were doing, so I broke that deal the minute I had a chance. Sold it to another company, and they're now distributing it on all the digital platforms. But I held on to the educational rights because I felt there was something there, and it turned out to be, yeah, there was something there, and it sold into educational um, outlets too. So I
Gotcha.
mean, if you're familiar with Canopy is a online tool for people who have want to do a digital library type of thing. You can get movies and books through Canopy, and through several regions around the world, you can go to that library and watch the movie on Canopy for free. It's just there. It's not everywhere. It depends on what Canopy is offering, but I think that's amazing. And then it has sold into colleges and universities as part of their like psychology and sociology programs. And because it's like a microscopic look at a certain group of people, I didn't know that when we were making the movie. I had no clue that that's how it's going to go, but I think it's amazing.
So I wanna switch gears a little bit here. Staying with Family of Fear, I got to know something. So this movie's got some humor in it, and
Yeah.
the most humorous part to me is there is a scene where cameraman is following these people on this like seeming like looking like covered wooden bridge thing. And he
Mm-hmm.
turns a corner and there's like some moss hanging. He thinks it's just decorations, but no, it's a scare. It's a jump scare. And
Mm-hmm.
cameraman screams, "Fucking shit." And it is the most gut busting break in the movie. For it was perfectly placed. Was that you holding the camera? Was that somebody else?
No, that was my camera guy. And the way we would do it is we would go through the haunt together.
Uh-huh.
And I would have him in front using what we had done is we found a company that does modifications on GoPros for ghost hunters so that they can get night vision on their GoPros. So I had him do a handful of those for me, and I mounted them around the haunt. And then we had one that we would go through with, so we could do it with no lights. And he would go, and I would kind of walk behind him and have my hand on his back to guide him because it's dark and he's looking at the camera the whole time. And we get to that area, the swamp, and they know when we're coming, right? The haunt actors all know. They're told cameras are coming through. Don't try to stop them. Just interact with them the way you would everybody else. Well, they do that, except they work really hard to get us. They
Mhm.
wanted to ruin the shots by getting us, and I thought it was great because it didn't ruin
Yeah.
the shots. It made them amazing. And when they got him, it took me forever in audio mixing to mix out my snicker because I was like just like that for a second because it cracked me up.
That
Yeah,
was
that's all like legit. Him just getting the crap scared out of him is amazing.
that I love hearing that. That's what I kind of like was thinking from filmmaker point of view. Like he was probably
Mm.
looking at that through the camera and not looking
Mm-hmm.
directly at it. Because through the
Yeah.
camera, you really cannot tell with that night vision on and the black and white grayscale on. It's like it is very, very hard to see what that is. Just looks like some hanging moss there. And it just that man, that was hilarious. That was absolutely hilarious.
It's one of my favorite moments in the movie. I love it so much.
you could tell your cameraman that 15 people that listened to a podcast you came on thought it was funny. All right, so once again, before we wrap up on the family of fear portion of this show, because we're going to get into the more cinema side, the more physical media side, and the TikTok side of Steven. Uh, Steven, real quick, recap where they can buy and stream this movie.
So you can stream it on most platforms. It's on pretty much everything. It's even on the Xbox. But I think the easiest ways are if you want to rent, you can get it through Amazon Prime. If you want to stream it for free, you can do that on Tubi. If you want to buy it, you can buy the DVD from Amazon. It's on an educational price point though, so I'll say that it's expensive. If you want to buy the DVD and you don't want to spend almost $40 for it, you can contact me on TikTok. And if you buy it from me, I'll get it for you for probably half that, and I'll sign it for you. If you want to buy a digital copy, you can buy a digital copy through Amazon also. So it's pretty much everywhere. It should be able to find it however you want it.
All right. Well, you guys heard it here. Go buy it. If this little conversation about it hasn't sold you on it, then I don't think that you have a soul. If you're not down for an underdog story, then I don't know what's wrong with you. I think you should go buy it or stream it for free on Tubi. There's no excuse when it's on Tubi for free. Come on, guys, go watch Family of Fear.
In my humble opinion, it not maybe not humble, but in my trying to be humble opinion, it is something different to watch for Halloween because we are all going to watch horror movies. But yes. I think looking for horror-based, haunt-based, scary documentaries is kind of a fun thing to do too. So it's out there for you if you want to see it.
Yes, you heard it. Now is the perfect time. Run, don't walk to go watch Family of Fear. Steven, what got you into cinema? Looking back to little baby bald-headed Steven, what was the thing that kind of clicked in your head, and when was that movies were something that you had a burning passion for?
It's interesting. It's hard for me to pinpoint it exactly. I just grew up watching a lot of movies. I used to spend summers with my grandparents, and they lived in the country, so there wasn't a lot to do except go and rent or buy movies. So my grandma would take me and let me get whatever I wanted because she spoiled me, and I watched tons and tons of movies with her, and it became special to me through that because she liked to watch movies too, so we would do it together. And as I got older and grew up, I just sort of stuck with it, and it really just became the thing that I love the most. And I'm doing this project, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but I'm doing this project to try to see 150 movies this year in the theater, and that comes from me. I'm an introvert extrovert. I love to be in groups. I love to connect with bunches of people and that kind of thing. But if I do that, I need an equal amount of time talking to nobody. And spending time in a theater is the perfect spot. I can take something in. I can go 2 or 4 hours and not speak to anybody, and I'm ready to go. I'm reset. I'm ready to go be among the masses again. So all of that, I guess, kind of connected it.
That's interesting because going to a theater is kind of like the only place really that you can have the best of both worlds, because you can go to a theater with a group of people and not talk to them. So and then you can have those conversations with them afterwards. That's really I relate to that. I like having friends and going out and doing stuff, but yeah, I gotta have time to recharge my batteries, my social battery.
Exactly.
Looking into your childhood and stuff, what are some movies like in your formative years that like that had like such an impact on you that like were some of your favorites, or had like movies that really helped to form who you are?
Well, it's horror movies. My genre of choice as far as work is documentary, but my genre of choice as far as passion is horror movies. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm just going to say it. We've dropped an F-bomb on here, so I feel like I can say this. But
we're R-rated podcast, so you can say
okay, good. Because as a young kid, I think I was just really interested to see boobs. And I knew the best place to see boobs, I had learned that early on, was to watch scary movies. So my grandma was like, get what you want, I don't care. So I get all the scary movies, hoping to see, that. And as I kind of developed a cinematic language, is what I call it, when I really started to learn movies and understand, holy crap, these are good on a lot of other levels. And I was gravitating toward Italian horror and didn't even know it, because you would get Dario Argento's movies or Lamberto Bava's movies released over here, dubbed and renamed. But I love those movies. And when I got older, I started trying to find the originals. And I don't know if I'm sure we're going there, but that led me to physical media because you couldn't watch them anywhere.
Right. So, yeah, physical media. That is physical media. For those of you listening at home, you all are going to know this. It's the only reason we're sitting here. Without me being a physical media collector, Masters of Matinee doesn't happen. Um, so it is something that I wanted to include a big portion of this show to, is not only just the appreciation of, but the promotion of, and discussion of, analytically diving into it. I always ask somebody new coming on what like started your love for collecting physical media. And what I mean by that is, like, when did it, cuz I know the answer for you is going to be probably the same, but at the surface level, probably going to be the same that it is for a lot of other people. It's because I'm an older dude. I grew up before streaming. Physical media, if you wanted to watch a movie, you had to go to the video store and rent it, or you had to go to the store and buy it, and that's what you
Yeah.
did. But when did that transition from just being what you did, the only way to watch movies, to like, oh, well, I want to actively collect these things. I want this and this and this all the time. I need to actually make it a collecting hobby. When was that for you?
Well, so it ties on to what I just told you. When I'd gotten a little older, I started having nostalgia for those movies that I had grown up watching. And with a little research, I learned that, oh, these, I didn't even see the movies the way they were actually intended. I had seen dubbed and cut and renamed versions. So then I started putting it all together, and I wanted to see those movies the way they were intended. And they weren't anywhere to watch. It was before streaming. They weren't in the theaters, obviously. So I had to go to physical media and started to gather them. And once I had them, I was like, man, this is amazing to be able to have whatever I want when I want it and pull it off the shelf and watch it. And that grew into me buying other things. And that's how my physical media collection started. Now, moving into streaming, it's the same issue in a different way. There's still a crap ton of movies that I love that aren't streaming. But on top of that, the ones that are streaming, so often by certain companies, get edited or changed or cut or whatever, to the point where I don't trust that they will be untouched in that format and still be available to watch. So my reasons for starting my collection continue to be valid today.
Right. I mean, look at the Disney with the French Connection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what what's socially acceptable today. I mean, I'm not saying that, them using a slur and that was socially acceptable, but it was important to the story to show that character's racism and everything and his prejudice.
Mm-hmm. There
But
was a reason it was there.
yeah, but it's like the stuff that we think is socially acceptable today to say in 20 years might not be. So movies that we have today might be getting cut if we keep allowing this practice.
Yeah.
Parts of them might
And the
just.
only way we learn, the only way we learn from the mistakes that we make is to try and not repeat them. And the only way we can avoid repeating them is by seeing them in our history, in our art, in the way what was the zeitgeist of the 1970s, you
Yep.
know? Well, you've changed it. So now I don't feel awkward when I hear that in French Connection. I'm like, ooh, oh, Quentin Tarantino strives to make you feel awkward in his movies when he
Yep.
puts that kind of language in there. That's the goal. There's a reason they did what they did in Tropic Thunder. It's to say, hey, look at what we've done. We can do better. And we
Right.
can also laugh a little bit awkwardly about it in that particular movie. And if you take those things away, I also take a big offense to Disney putting digital like hair, like because her hair in Daryl Hannah's hair was really long in Splash, but there's a really quick shot of her butt, and they put digital hair all the way down so it covers
Mm,
it up. I take offense to that.
yeah.
How dare you? How dare you?
I think that
But yeah,
the
it's
message is
just dumb.
don't edit movies. They were There's a reason that those things were in there. There's a reason that the filmmaker chose those choices. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not that remains to be socially acceptable, uh, that doesn't matter. You still need to have those things on display. If you're offended by it, don't watch it first and foremost, or actually do
Well,
watch
watch
it.
it and talk
Yeah,
about it.
watch
Yeah,
it and say,
watch it and have a
and then
conversation.
yeah, have that form your own opinion on why, and then think, why am I feeling uncomfortable by hearing this? Eh, Why should I feel uncomfortable by hearing this? If the answer is yes,
Mm-hmm.
great. Then the filmmaker's vision has been achieved. I think that's like kind of a coming from a guy from the generation like myself, where my generation is constantly trying to bury the past and try to and a lot of times it can be good when they try to. I don't like to use the word cancel a lot unless it's like joking manner, because I don't take it
Mm-hmm.
ultra seriously, but there
Mm-hmm.
are some people that do, and I think they get misguided when they lose the context. They lose
Yes,
that this
but
was a
context is
socially acceptable
important.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, you
absolutely.
and I talk about that all the time on our streams. To
Mhm.
me, context is important, um, and there's always a reason that it's in there. If it's something that we find negative now, it's in there because that's the way that character would have spoke at that time, or that's the way the writing was being written at that time. There's so much to learn. There's so much to learn from any kind of art. People would be offended if the statue of David, they started putting boxer shorts on him because they don't want you to see, you know, his business. No one would want to do that. That's stupid. But film is art too, and it often doesn't get treated that way. Currently, what's happening with streaming is it's not even called film; it's called content.
Right.
And my very first distributor started talking about my film as content, and that was the end of it for them. I was looking for a way out because I'm not Martin Scorsese, but I still made a movie. It's not content that you can mold like clay and do what you want with.
Right.
It's I don't want to treat art that way.
That's kind of what the way that I've always like seen the difference, is that when you're talking about telling a narrative story in any way, because I mean, statues and paintings can tell a story. That is art, that is film, that is cinema, that is whatever you want.
Hmm.
Content is what this is right here, this podcast. Content
Exactly.
is our TikTok accounts, and
Exactly.
we can mold this show or our TikTok accounts to tell a story if we choose to, and we could in turn
Hmm.
make them art.
Hmm.
Or we could, put messages in those and can convey an agenda or whatever we want to do with those. But good actual art is something that needs to be, if not relatable to everybody, it needs to be able to be read by everybody. Everybody needs to be able to think about it and comprehend its message. And that's like, I haven't heard this whole argument that they're calling streaming shows content, but it does make sense because a lot of them are in the filmmaking process are treated just like the filmmakers are YouTubers or something, And I'm not trying to trash YouTubers. I know some of you guys watch this show. I still, you guys
Yeah,
are talented. I'm not trying to take that away, but
for sure. But if you talk to any YouTuber or most YouTubers, and we've seen it come to fruition in really great ways the last few years, a lot of them are striving to be filmmakers, and
oh
they're
yeah,
using YouTube as a gateway. And I think that's amazing. I mean, we
yeah.
had a couple of really great movies come out from YouTube creators.
Talk to
So
Me, right, was one of them.
Talk to Me, yeah, and Barbarian.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
I know Barbarian was a film group, I think, actually. But Talk to Me is the one I was really thinking of. And then there's that other one. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the group now, the videos, but they're like YouTube videos of just creepy walking through empty hallways. The
Uh-huh.
back something.
Oh, you're talking about
Anyways,
Skinamarink.
no, not
Oh,
Skinamarink. It's called back. Someone's going to come in your comments and say this is what it is. It's the back
Back
rooms. I
Rooms?
think it's called the back rooms.
Back Rooms, yeah.
And there's a movie being made. That creator is going to be able to make a film based on those YouTube videos. And I think that's amazing.
I
Slender
gotcha.
Man, Slender Man wasn't great, but it did come from like online short stories, right?
Yeah, creepypasta.
Yeah. So these are people who are striving to be filmmakers too, and con, I don't want it to sound elitist because it's not meant that way. Because content is something you create with the very specific idea of being able to mold it in different ways. When I create a YouTube video, a lot of times I'm thinking, can I cut this up for TikTok? Can I
Yeah.
take the audio from this to go to a podcast? That's what content is, but films are not supposed to be treated that way. And the way studios are treating it now is they will create a show for streaming and then drop it on TV. Yellowstone is showing on TV now, but Yellowstone I don't think was shot with commercial breaks in mind. So now the pacing of the show is screwed up because they're having to drop those commercial breaks in, right? So that's treating it like content.
Yeah, and then
that's the thing I think is really bad.
When they're developed and stuff, they're developed with the idea of how can we market this to get as many people on TikTok in short, like make it cut this up into a short form thing to market it to people on TikTok, so they will in turn subscribe to our streaming service and stuff. It's all part of that marketing machine, and I feel like when they focus too much on that, I mean, because like let's be honest, like when you are making a film, like yeah, the intent is to get your artistic vision out, but nobody would fucking do it if they weren't getting paid for it eventually. If it didn't have
Exactly.
some kind of end game. But
you couldn't do it.
But that's the thing. Films nowadays, and I don't want to be like that old man who says films nowadays suck because this.
Screaming at the sky.
Yeah. But a lot of films nowadays, especially ones that are made by big streamers and are going straight to streaming, are made with marketing forward attitudes, where they just want to get more subscribers on their platform, or they just want more people's eyes on it so they can run advertisements on it or what have you. And I think that when you do that too much, it loses the soul of the artistic value of the film itself.
Exactly. And it's just, when that original distributor was talking to me about it, and they really did start referring to my film as content and how could we repurpose it? Halloween's coming up. Can we cut it up into segments and do, something on a streaming platform? I'm like, it's not long enough to be cut into segments. Well, you could put some stuff in. And I'm like, I didn't put stuff in because it's fine how it is. If you were paying me on the producing side when I was making the movie, then you might have some say about how the movie is cut. But I financed that movie on my own, so it's cut how it's going to be cut, and it just, there's no appreciation for the creator or the creative process in that. So I was so happy to get out of it and move it.
Well, kudos to you for keeping your artistic vision and intact with it, and knowing what your ultimate goal was when you set out for it, and keeping to that goal. That's something that I feel like also on the filmmaker side of it probably gets lost with a lot of these people. Is I'm hesitant to say they sell out, but they sell out.
Well, look, when you're trying to create stuff, you want to create art, but the zeitgeist is changing. How people want to experience art is changing. You have to honestly be ready to bend to that. And I would certainly do something that's, meant for a different method of distribution. But I would want to do that and focus on that. If I'm making a film, that's a film. If I'm doing content, that's content. I love doing content. We do content every day on TikTok. I love it.
When you get an idea for a documentary or a docu-series, do you try to sometimes shop it around to studios or streamers or anybody to see if anybody wants to buy it so you can get funding to make it before setting out to try to make it yourself?
I have. And one of the projects I'm working on now, I am doing that because it's a bigger project than I feel like I can take on financially. The problem is with funding documentaries is different. It's difficult because the market is smaller. So, you basically become a marketing person when you're trying to get money for a documentary. You have to go in and say, oh, you can get your money back this way and that way and this way. And this is how we're going to get our money back. It's not just through a theatrical distribution or a physical media distribution or a streaming platform, because you have to be able to be creative about how you're going to get it paid for. And it's not necessarily that they're trying to make, $1 million or something in profit on it, but they want to know that they're going to get their money back. They're going to recoup it, because you could take a loss on a documentary if you're not careful.
Right.
But something like Family of Fear, it was a big project, but I knew I could break the cost up myself. And I broke the cost up over the shoot time, because a vast majority of the time my crew wasn't bigger than 3 or 4 people. So, and all of them were in it with me. You know, none of us were making any money on the front end. We were just doing the movie and hoping for the best.
Right.
So I was able to fund it myself, and when I can do that, I do, because it allows me to go right into production.
Right.
You
And it
know,
allows you
when you're
to remain independent with the decisions of making it as well. You're not answering to producers, you know.
exactly. But like I said, I'm a collaborator. I think a good filmmaker is a collaborator, and if someone's going to come in and pay and help make the thing happen, then they should get to have a say. And we'll try. And my goal is always to work with people that I can connect with. And if you
Right.
work with people that you can connect with and not look at the dollar signs first, you'll still make something that you love.
Yeah.
It's hard though. It's hard, man. As a documentary filmmaker, usually what you do is apply for grants, and that is a good way to fund a documentary, but you better be willing to wait 6 months to a year to start your project, because it takes a long time to apply and a long time to hear back. And then if you hear back and it's a no, you better have applied for more, because
Right.
most of the time it's a no, you know?
Well, let me ask you this, and we don't have to go into financial specifics of this. I'm just curious. After all these years of Family Fear being on the market, do you consider it to be a financial success?
Yes, it is a financial success. We did turn profit on it. It's not huge, you know. I couldn't live off it, for example. You know, I have to do other things,
Right.
but it I made my money back. Plus, we made a little money um, that we can kind of probably reinvest in the next project.
So what you're saying is
I mean,
it
ultimately,
it kind of helps you pay for your physical media obsession.
yeah, it kind of does. It kind of does.
That's great to hear, man. I'm glad that after all that work and stuff, putting into it was something that was really met with some fanfare and success. That's great. That's great to hear. I want to switch gears again, and we're going to talk about Tickety Talk. So
All right.
you've been on YouTube for a while, right?
I
You were on
started
YouTube
YouTube in
before.
2019.
Okay,
Yeah,
were you on YouTube before or TikTok before?
I was on YouTube first.
Okay.
I was on YouTube first. And the whole reason that I started on YouTube is because of trauma, because of physical media trauma.
Oh,
Because I was building this production space that I'm working in now, and the house, and I had put all of my physical media into storage because I had nowhere to put it while the house was being built, because we were staying in a little, basically, apartment. Well, someone broke into that storage building and took a little over half my collection, just took the bins.
oh
And
man.
it destroyed me, because my collection right now is somewhere around 2,800 movies. I was right at 5,000 movies. I was really in a spot where I was happy. Like, I wasn't trying to hoard. I curate my collection very aggressively. I want it to be things that I like and want to share. But I was in a good spot. The only problem I had is a lot of them were DVDs, and I knew I would have to do some upgrading. But yeah, they took so many of them. I knew I was going to have to start this journey to reestablish my collection. And I thought, man, I'll just have public therapy and do YouTube videos of me as I add to it and pick up stuff and search for things and whatever. And that's how YouTube started.
What was like? Because I mean, I've only known you really for a few months now. What was like the uh, basic idea behind your original YouTube channel? Like, were you just sitting in front of a camera and talking about movies, or were you more geared toward the physical media? Or
It was mostly physical media. And I would do movie reviews and discussion based off physical media pickups, purchases that I was getting, because it allowed me to talk about those movies again, maybe some I hadn't talked about in a long time. And then pandemic happened and everything slowed down. I was doing more YouTube content during that because I had time. Um, but yeah, that was the majority of it.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean my channel. I'll tell you right now was never meant to be physical media. Like I've collected for most of my life, but I tried everything, man. I tried. Like I've been doing YouTube since 2009, dude.
Oh, wow.
And so I tried comedy, vlogs, video games, just about everything that I was somewhat good at. And then
Hmm.
when I finally got onto TikTok and stuff and met everybody in our community, I was like, let me see if I can translate this short form movie content into long form movie content. And I've actually been finding some success. So I'm glad that it's it sounds like it's a little bit reversed for you. You started YouTube first and went to TikTok. What about
Hmm.
TikTok was something that you were like, hey, I'm not the target demographic for this app. Let me talk about
Yeah.
movies. How did TikTok come into the game?
I was not interested in TikTok. I was not going to do it. I didn't care about it. But I just got annoyed because my girlfriend loves it, and she kept freaking texting me videos from TikTok. I didn't have the app on my phone, so she would get annoyed if I hadn't looked at it. So I finally put the app on, and it was at the same time I was really pushing forward into getting back fully into production, because between documentaries, I do corporate video, I do copywriting, that kind of thing, and YouTube was wearing me out, because when you want to do one video on YouTube, it's a couple, 2, 3 hours work. And as I was looking on TikTok, I started seeing some creators, and I'm like, well, my people are here, and I could do this in 15 minutes. And not, because by the end of the day, the last thing I want to do after editing some corporate video all day is sit down and do another 2, 3 hours on YouTube. So I thought, let me give it a go. And I'm still doing my YouTube, but the videos are much less common. And I do more live streams on YouTube now. I don't do as many videos. And I did it, started to do it, enjoyed it because it was freeing. I didn't
Yeah.
have to have my full production value stuff. I didn't have to do all the things that I would want to do on YouTube or another platform. And then I started meeting people that are in this community, and it stuck.
So when I think that you and I both do a pretty good idea of or a good job of cultivating community within TikTok.
Hmm.
And that's what I like about TikTok. It's way more community focused than YouTube is.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
with your community, how did you all right, I'll say this first off. I akin personally my view of our film talk community, as we affectionately call it, to a lot like the outcasts in Family of Fear.
Hmm.
I'm a overweight. I was a goth kid in high school, metalhead. Nobody, I was picked on all the time. Nobody liked me. And also in my regular life, I have friends that like movies, but none of them like it and like them enough to be able to sit down with me and like have a long discussion about movies like we do every night on live. And
Exactly.
then none of them give a shit about physical media, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
So I find the film talk community and I'm like, oh man, wait a minute. These are my people. This is why I
Hmm.
downloaded TikTok. This is what was in the cards for me for getting on this app, is finding this super eclectic group of people. I mean, we have people of all ages. The youngest person I know that's on Film Talk is 16 years old, and I think that is amazing. And then I
Hmm.
know people that are in their 60s that are doing it.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we have all races, all creeds, religions, sexualities, and none of that matters because
Yeah.
movies are universal. It's something that is
Hmm.
so easy to talk to another human being about, and you put aside every single kind of bias or prejudice that you know exists in the crappy world around us, and that stuff doesn't matter. All that matters is that you are finally having a conversation with people about movies, and I love that about our community, and I love that you were a pretty big part of that community at this point, I would say.
Well, okay, it's funny how it started, because I did a podcast for years and still do it, but I don't do it as a podcast anymore. We just do a live stream every week.
The culture
And
smash,
it's,
right?
yeah, yeah. And we did it as a full blown podcast, fully produced, everything for many years. And I had to move it to a live stream and do what we're doing because of time. I just don't a lot of times have the time or energy. Like I said, after doing production all day, it's just, I just don't want to do it anymore. Um, so we do a thing where we play this game called Fantasy Film Ball. And basically what we do is we take 4 months, 4 month periods, we get all the domestic big release movies. We bid through a set dollar amount on the movies we think are worth the most box office. And then we smack talk each other about how stupid we are for our choices for 4 months, and it's really, really fun. And I thought, how is it that I can just break into this community and start meeting people and interacting with them? And there was a group I had sort of started following and talking to a little bit. So I just and put them all together. I said, "Hey, let's play some film ball." And that became a thing. We're all playing, and through those games, when we do the bids, it's crazy. People Other people came in to watch the bids and that kind of thing, and I just sort of grew, and now I've got like such a really cool, fairly good sized group of people that I really love to talk to every single day.
And that's something that's incredible about the film talk community too, is that it's from an outsider's perspective, it might seem a little bit clicky, but it's not, because when you get, because like it's like you have your group, and then I have a group that runs around with me and we talk and stuff.
Hmm.
Then I've seen a lot of other people that have these other groups, but it's like when you get members of these groups together, it's never awkward or anything.
No.
It's always so fun to talk to, and it's fun to talk about, going back to just talking about movies and stuff, but it's also
Hmm.
fun to talk about, TikTok and like exchanging trade industry secrets on TikTok between
Yeah.
creators. And
Well, side note, and this is really what I'm going to tell you right now is literally all I can say right now. But I am the constant networker,
uh-huh.
and there are a few TikTokers here on the app that I'm one of the documentaries I'm working on is with them, and that's
Oh,
something I really hope sticks and we can make it happen. But yeah, I didn't know for sure that that was going to happen, but I hoped I would meet some other filmmakers, and that's something that's moving forward. So it's cool.
that's great. That's great to hear. I cannot wait to hear more about this in the coming times. Um, when you are collecting physical media and then you jump onto this weird app and stuff, it's just when you find these people, man, when you find these people, and then this app gives you all this these community like tools that you can use, stitching and duetting and stuff, and then live is a
Hmm.
whole different beast. Going live and being able to sit face to face with people, like I'm in West Virginia, you're in Nashville, and we got people all the way out to freaking California and stuff that we talked to. We got
Yeah.
somebody, Lauren, shout out to Lauren, all the way in freaking Australia that we're talking
Yeah.
to.
Well,
It's
and here's the
so
crazy
interesting.
part of it. What's really crazy about that, speaking of her in particular and some others, is it's about to step out of TikTok into the real world for me because
Yeah,
as by the time you guys are listening to this, a week or two later, some of the TikTok people are coming to Nashville.
yeah.
And then others of us are, including Lauren. Lauren, it just so happens, is coming from Australia to New York to visit her aunt, and she's going to try to fly down and hang with us. And then after that, we're gonna go to see Nerdy Dustin 2.0 because he's having a movie premiere, and I want to support that. So we're gonna fly up there and go to his premiere. So it's cool. We've all gotten so close that we're working on ways to get together in person, and that's only gonna grow. I think we're gonna do something bigger next year, something with more notice, so people have time to save monies and work out time off and whatever. But it's amazing. I did not expect it. And to what you said, the difference is like with YouTube, the people there's some nice people in the physical media space on YouTube as well,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but even the nicest people are still very focused on monetization and clicks, and they kind of will step over you a little bit if it means growth on their channel. And I don't mean that they try to like ruin your channel. That's not like anything dramatic like that. It's just that they don't have the time to really get to know anybody, you
Right.
know? Whereas on TikTok, there are people that are working really hard on growth and monetization and all that, but it's a much more minor piece of the puzzle. It really is more about community on TikTok, and it's just the nature of the app, I think,
And
and it's just so cool.
I think with TikTok, it's almost like, I mean, it's not almost, it is like, if you do want to grow to a point where you can monetize TikTok, you have to be community based. It's a necessity,
Hmm.
because I mean, your first with TikTok, your first monetization is going to be dependent on people gifting you on live, and then you have to have an insane amount of people following you to get into any kind of monetization program or anything like that. So like it really is with TikTok where the bread and butter lies in building a TikTok channel is cultivating and leading your community, and then getting in with other communities and all the crossover and all the, like I'm really excited for when you guys all get together because I cannot wait to start seeing videos of
Oh, the content is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be ridiculous.
I can't wait to see, like, you try to get Dustin to drink some of your coffee and see him spit it out or something. That's gonna be great.
I think we're all going to drink hot sauce or something too, which is going to be great.
All right, that's the last thing that I want to talk about with you, and then we're gonna wrap this fantastic episode up. Man, this has been a great episode. Steven told me beforehand that he had a little bit of a story to tell about some hot sauce. So Steven is absolutely obsessed with hot sauce. If you are a hot sauce fan, his channel on TikTok is for you 100%. You got somebody sent you this box of hot sauces around the world, right?
Yeah, it's hot sauces from around the world, and it's timed really well because as we're recording this, the WGA and the SAG strikes are hopefully winding to an end. But I had to change my content because I'm not in SAG, I'm not in the WGA. Documentary filmmakers sadly don't have a union, but that's something that is in the works, and I hope it actually comes together.
Oh yeah.
But I do stand in solidarity with them, and I do work with people that are in those unions often, off and on. Things come up I get to work on. So I had to stop talking about movies in the most typical way, which is talking about new releases in the theater and all this stuff. So I added in hot sauce because I love hot sauce and something else I'm passionate about. So I think I'm gonna post the video anyway because I have no pride. I'm gonna do it. So it kept getting suggested to me when I put it out there. I'm like, how should I try these hot sauces for you guys? Handful of people are like, put them on eggs, and I'm like, I know, I love hot sauce on eggs, so I'll do it. I make really good omelets. To all my friend group around here, when they come here, they want omelets because I've gotten really good at making them. So I thought, okay, I have some leftover meat. Let me do an omelet. I'll shoot a video for TikTok and I'll use one of the hot sauces and we'll talk about it. Well, I learned something tonight. I learned something very important. Life is about learning. Is the things that I can't do in life, one of them is to shoot TikTok videos and cook omelets at the same time because I blew it. Something was going to take a beating in that, and it ended up being the poor omelet because it got kind of destroyed. It didn't come together. I'm just going to put the video up there and show the horribleness of the omelet because I still tried the hot sauce and it was still good. It just didn't work. But yeah,
I'll be linked in the description.
Yeah. I do little walking tours around Nashville because Nashville's kind of a hot city right now. So those are the things I kind of fill in the gaps on when we're waiting to be able to talk fully about movies again.
Well, your movie content, for as great as it is, I also do love this other hot sauce and, Nashville city content. So I hope that even once the strikes are over, you'll continue to do stuff like that sometimes once you return back. Because I think you do have quite a bit of your community that it does enjoy that, because content like that, we're not watching each other just because we want to hear about opinions on movies or see the nice new physical media releases. It's like I genuinely care about this person. I want to see more about them and learn more about them. And I think that your little series, especially your series of walking around Nashville, telling stories about the city and about different places, giving recommendations, it shows us in like a side of you that we honestly probably wouldn't have got to see much of had it not been for the strikes. And it's a side that I like, Steven. So keep it up.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I didn't expect the level of engagement that some of that stuff has gotten. So it's going to stay around. Awesome. I'm a walker by nature. I'm a people watcher by nature because that's how I'm a documentary filmmaker and we are people watchers. So I like to get out in city because in Nashville, in the city, it's pretty diverse. People come from all over the world to come to the city. So I see all kinds of things. So I'm always out there. So I might as well shoot videos.
Very nice. All right, everybody. This has been a nice little hangout with documentary filmmaker Stephen Lackey, OTSMovies. Thank you so much, Stephen, for coming on. I hope you had fun and I hope you'll come back sooner rather than later.
Anytime. I loved it. It was a great time.
Steven,
Always is chatting with you, sir.
Thank you. Promote your channels real quick. Tell the people where they can
Okay,
find
so
it.
it's pretty easy. OTS Movies on TikTok is the #1 spot. That's where I am all the time. Letterboxd is another really good spot. I review 90% of what I see, and you can find me there. It's OTS Movies. I do have a Instagram, but it's mostly just reposts of TikToks. So if you really have to be on there, I do post some stuff. It's Off the Shelf Movies there. And that's really it. That's the places. There is a Facebook page for Family of Fear if you want to go follow it. I will post, on there once or twice a year. But really, TikTok and Letterboxd is where you want to be.
Awesome. And just to add on to that real quick, Steven and I are both currently writing reviews for ohmr.us, Overly Honest Movie Reviews. So go check us out over there. You won't regret it, because myself, Dustin, Nerdy Dustin, Steven, and Chris Jones all post over there. It's a great site. We love it, and we really want to build it up and have it be your all's one-stop shop for great independent and foreign films, and sometimes studio movies. But we do a lot more of the stuff that doesn't get much of a mainstream focus on it, and I think that's what I really appreciate about that site. So go check out some of Steven's readings on there. That'll be in the description below as well. Thank you all for listening along with us. I'll see you next Blues Day Tuesday.
All right. I gotta admit it. That was a pretty good interview, and Steven is actually a pretty cool cat. How the hell am I supposed to end these things?
You've got to thank the audience for listening.
Right. Thanks for listening, Fush Sacks. How was that?
Well,
what, you tubby meat bag?
Nothing. I
Just what?
It's just that you could be a bit nicer about it. I mean, they did take time out of their day to listen to the show.
Yeah, you're right. Thanks for taking time out of your boring ass good-for-nothing doldrum lives to listen to the show.
And, you gotta promote Steven and the other masters' social medias.
Oh, hell, you do it.
Thank you to documentary filmmaker Stephen Lackey for coming on the show and having this awesome conversation with me. Us. You can find him on TikTok and YouTube at OTSMovies, and don't forget to follow the other masters on their socials and their Letterboxd, and follow me on TikTok and YouTube at JT the Talking Head.
What about me? You gonna promote my TikTok?
You have a TikTok?
What's that? Forget it. Never mind. Continue, Peckerwood.
Don't forget to check out Masters of Matinee every Blues Day Tuesday on your favorite podcast platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hopefully I'll see you next week.
Hey,
Yeah?
what the hell is a podcast?